Cloud. Yeah. Okay.
Welcome, everyone, to our second AJL Canada Authors Showcase. Our steering committee is comprised of Marjorie Gann, Programs Chair, and Caroline Ingvaldson, Secretary Treasurer. I'm Ann Dublin, Membership Chair and AJL Canada Newsletter Editor. We three are based in Toronto, but our AJL Canada members are located across Canada and even abroad. So, I want to tell you a few guidelines for this session. Everyone, please mute yourself until it's your turn to speak. You can put your questions in the chat or put up your hand, real or virtual, during the Q&A. Each author has 3 minutes to speak. However, authors with 2 books have 5 minutes. Marjorie will keep time and announce the name of the next speaker. Marjorie will raise her hand when you have 30 seconds left. And now I'll turn the program over to Marjorie Gann. Thank you.
So our first speaker is Nancy Cohen.
Hello, everybody. I'd like to start out by saying I'm also a librarian. I was a children's librarian at the Moncton Public Library for 27 years, I believe. Before that, I was a librarian in Ottawa for a couple of years. So this is my 4th book. I'm a big rig. I have 3 other books, part of a series, the Here Babies, There Babies series. And this book came out in November. It was the official release date. Came out a little bit before that. It is illustrated by Claire Manning, and it is published by Nimbus Publishing in Halifax. So I'm just going to go ahead and read a bit of it. I won't read it all, even though it's pretty short. It really only takes about 3 minutes to read, I think, but I'll just read a little bit of it to you. It's a board book, by the way. I'm a big rig, the biggest on the road, and I'm heading to the island with a big, important load. My horn is blaring loudly because I want to get there fast, but the pickup truck ahead of me ignores my mighty blast. Look out, pickup truck, get out of my way. I'm heading to the island and I haven't got all day. I soar past that pickup and leave it in the dust, but now I see ahead of me a bucket full of rust. Look out, rusty truck, get out of my way. I'm heading to the island and I haven't got all day. Once I pass that rusty slowpoke, I start picking up my speed. No, 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 what's up ahead now? My way is being blocked by a yellow snowplow. Look out, yellow snowplow, get out of my way. I'm heading to the island and I haven't got all day. I push on past that snowplow, but I'll have to make up time. I've come now to the mountain and up I start to climb. The mountain is steep. The gears shift too low. My pedals to the metal, but this truck just won't go. Oh no. The gauge is on empty. I've run out of fuel. I'm stuck on the mountain. This is not cool. And then I see behind me and pulling over now a pickup truck, a rusty truck, and a yellow snowplow. So I'll leave the story on that cliffhanger and you'll have to get the book to find out how it ends. And some of you who are familiar with the Maritimes may have noticed that some of the places that it shows in the book, some of the landmarks are in the Maritimes. When I first sent the manuscript, it actually said I'm heading to the city, but then we decided to make it the island just to put in some of those maritime features. So that's it.
Very much, Nancy.
Thank you.
And our next is Kathy Kaser, last known address.
Thank you, Margie, and hello, everyone. So there is a quote in the Talmud that says, "A person is forgotten only when their name is forgotten." That quote was used by Gunter Demnig to describe his motivation for creating the Stumbling Stones project. So I'm the author of more than 30 books for young readers that focus on stories of the Holocaust. I'm a past winner of the Yad Vashem Award for Children's Holocaust Literature in Israel, numerous Forest of Reading Awards, and the JBC National Book Award in Canada and the US. I've had the pleasure of speaking in schools, libraries, and universities around the world. Last known address, right here, The Stumbling Stones of Europe, is my latest book, published by Second Story Press. It's a collection of stories from more than a dozen people who have been honored with stumbling stones. So what are stumbling stones? For those of you who don't know, they are small brass plaques that have been laid into the pavement in front of homes across Europe where Jews once lived and from where they were arrested and taken to the concentration camps. I don't know if you know this, but there are more than 100,000 stumbling stones in more than 1,000 cities and towns across Europe, each one paying tribute to and naming an individual who was arrested from their home. Some of the stories in this collection are of people you know well, like Anne Frank. Some are of people you will learn about, like Attila Petschauer, an Olympic fencer. While most of the stories are of Jewish victims, they are not the only ones who were honored with stumbling stones. I include a story of a disabled individual, a Roma couple, a man who was gay, and someone who spoke out against Hitler. All of those people were targeted and arrested. All have stumbling stones placed somewhere in the world. So I want to tell young people about these people who've been honored. And I would also love to speak to adults about the stumbling stones, a phenomenon that many are unaware of. I really hope that each one of you one day has the experience, the joyful experience of traveling somewhere in the world. When you do and you happen to walk down a street in a European city, I want you to look down. I have no doubt that you will stumble across a small brass plaque that has been laid into the pavement. And on that plaque will be the name of someone who lived and possibly perished in the Holocaust. I want you to pause for a moment and say that person's name aloud. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you very much. Our next is Anna Levine.
Roadside Cider. Oscar Wilde has a quote, an essay, sorry, that I just love. And in it, he talks about how life imitates art. And I really had a moment this year where I was asking myself, just as Benji does in Roadside Seder, I had a what would Benji do moment. It was Passover and the war was still going on. And so my brother, who usually comes from Portugal, couldn't make it because his flight was canceled. Both of my sons couldn't make it because their flights were canceled. And my family that lives on North didn't feel comfortable driving because they were worried. Yeah. And my husband and I looked at each other and we were like, Passover, just the two of us? And I thought about what Benji says at one point when their Passover Seder is at risk. And he goes, no Seder? No way. I'm not giving up, said Benji. He hopped on to the trunk of the tree and holding his Moses cane high in the air, he called out, why is this night different from all other nights? Because, said Grandma, even Moses couldn't get us out of a mess like this. Maybe Moses couldn't do it alone, but we can do it together, said Benji. We'll have a Passover Seder right here. We can use the palm tree as a table and share all the food that's packed in our cars. So I sent out a WhatsApp to all of my neighbors. And I said, we're all in the same situation. And we all live close enough to our bomb shelters that we could have a Passover Seder together. And so I invited everybody over, and they brought their knedlach, and they brought their chicken soups, and they brought their stories, and they brought their traditions, and they brought their tunes. And we all sat around and we had the most incredible community Seder. And really, that's what Roadside Seder is about. It's about community coming together. It's about creativity. It's about ingenuity. And my neighbor's daughter, who was too young to read from the Haggadah, and I gave her a copy of the book, and she sat at the table through the whole Seder looking at, can you see this page? Looking at this page, trying to find the Afikomen. And it's up here in the corner. She get the sample is up here, and she kept going, here it is. And so I want to give a shout out to Naama Lahav, who I think did a beautiful, beautiful job at bringing the text to life with her illustrations. I'm really proud of the book because I feel that, yes, it's a holiday story, but for me, it's so much more than that. It really shows Israel in all its many facets, in the multiculturalism, the idea of community working together. And it's all the things that I love about living here, actually. So while I am looking forward, am I over time? While I'm looking forward to getting together with my family next year, I had a wonderful experience this year. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Anna. Thank you. And our next is Joanne Levy, who gets 5 minutes because she has 2 books.
And I probably won't use it, but I will watch for the hand just in case. So, hi, everybody. Thanks so much for having me. I am Joanne Levy, and I'm coming to you from Clinton, Ontario, out in the sticks, which is almost at the eastern shore of Lake Huron. I have written over a dozen books for middle graders, including the Canadian Jewish Lit Award winner, Sydney Taylor Notable, and Governor General's Award finalist, Sorry for Your Loss. But I'm here to talk about 2 other books. So the first one is called All the Things We Found, and it was published in September by Orca Book Publishers. And it's about Ruthie, who has started to settle into her new life. Her parents split up, but now her mom is remarried, and Ruthie's getting used to having both a stepdad and 2 stepbrothers, and seeing her dad only part of the time, until her mom announces she's pregnant again. Ruthie's still grieving the brother that she never got to meet 3 years ago when her mom had a late-term miscarriage, and this news of her mom's pregnancy sends her absolutely reeling. But at least she has her best friend Jenna, her favorite book series about unicorns, and her beloved dog Izzy to help her navigate everything coming her way, or so she thinks. I like to say this book has everything in it. It's got frank discussion about grief and loss, some humor, a dog, an unexpected intergenerational friendship, unicorns, a funeral, and yes, even some mahjong. So that's All the Things We Found. I hope you'll check it out. And coming in the fall on October 20th, I have a new book, and it's called How to Walk a Dog. And it's my next middle grade from Union Square Kids. And it's about a boy who just happens to have ADHD, who finds himself in the position of supporting his former best friend when her period unexpectedly and very publicly arrives at school. One to always advocate for those he cares about, Asher decides to do his school passion project on destigmatizing menstrual periods. And he creates a video to share with his class. Except the video gets shared on YouTube and goes viral. This book also has a little bit of everything. It's got boys as allies, which I think is so important, destigmatizing and normalizing menstrual periods, reframing ADHD as a superpower as it should be, Jewish representation, as do all my books, and yes, a dog, and a very, very good dose of humor. This book is mostly told in prose, but it also contains lots of fun elements like sketches, footnotes, lists, storyboards, and charts to tell Asher's story in a way that reflects his neurodivergence. It's a shorter book at only about 44,000 words, and I hope it will appeal to kids like Asher and those who know someone like him. If you use Edelweiss, it's already up for review, unfortunately without the art just yet. Or please get in touch. I do have the PDF that I can share to reviewers. Check out my website at joannelevy.com for more about my books, to download discussion and activity guides, and to learn more about school and virtual visits. And thank you very much. I think I was under 5 minutes.
You were. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. And our next is Sidura Ludwig. And Sidura also has 5 minutes because she has 2 books. Okay, Sidura?
Thank you, Marjorie. First of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and to be amongst all these amazing creators and librarians. I am going to be sharing with you my 2 picture books, Rising, which came out May 2024, and also our spectacular Sukkah, which is coming out this August 2026. They are both illustrated by the fantastic Sophia Vincent Guy. I'm just going to give a shout out to Sophia. Sophia is also Canadian, but lives in Israel. She lives in Herzliya. And it's been an incredible experience for me to get to partner with her on these 2 books. I'll start with Rising. Rising is the story about a child and their mother getting up early on a Friday morning to make challah and get ready for Shabbat. And as the book progresses, the child's relationship with challah and challah as something to share with the family, challah as something to share with others, challah as a form of a spiritual expression. It all comes out in the book. I'd like to read just a little bit from the beginning for you, and then I'll share with you our spectacular sukkah. Anne, you asked to talk about illustrations. I could go on and on about Sophia's illustrations, and there's all kinds of gems that she has in both books. I rise with Ima in the early morning. She places her special bowl on the kitchen counter. Yeast bubbles in the warm water. My hot chocolate and her tea sit beside it. Steam from both our cups rising. I stir with a wood spoon, flour, then oil, eggs, sugar, and a bit of salt. Everything separate, then mixed together. It's a very lyrical book. It's very much about leaning into the pause as we get ready for Shabbat. It was awarded, I'm thrilled and honored that it was awarded the Sidney Taylor Honor, as well as the Canadian Jewish Literary Award for children's fiction. So that was Rising. And it's also a PJ Library book. Our Spectacular Sukkah is our new book, our latest one that's coming out, like I said, this August. And this one is all about a child and her brother and their family. They are getting ready to make the most fantastic sukkah ever in their backyard. It's going to be the most spectacular sukkah. And then a windstorm comes and blows it all away. And she is devastated. But wait, can her neighbors help and put it back together? So let me just share with you a little bit of that and just look at the colors in this. The one thing I did ask Sophia with this one is that I said this story, in order for it to work, has to exist in a suburban backyard. I live in Thornhill, and I needed the backyards to be divided by fences in order for this to work. So we're building a sukkah, a glorious sukkah, a delightful and distinctive sukkah. A sturdy, strong, spectacular sukkah. We're building the perfect sukkah just for us. For 7 days we'll eat in it, play in it, sing in it. For 7 nights we'll sleep in it and count the stars. If it's cold in the sukkah, we'll bundle up to stay warm. If it's warm in the sukkah, we'll find ways to stay cool. We'll even find ways to stay dry if it rains. It's our sukkah. We made it all by ourselves. It's the most perfect sukkah in the world. And I'm going to leave you on that cliffhanger right there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And our next is Carol Matus, and 2 books as well for Carol.
Thank you, Marjorie, and probably just shout if I go over because I won't notice your hand.
Okay.
So thank you very much for this opportunity to talk about my 2 books, Storm Unleashed and Kai and the Golem, 2 very different books. So I'm going to start with Storm Unleashed and probably talk the most about this one today. This book was put out by Scholastic Canada, and I'm just going to jump right in and read the first page and then talk a little bit about it. So, Chapter 1, A Storm Unleashed. I am taking your dog. I look up to see a girl in a uniform standing over me. She's around my age, maybe 12 or 13. Her uniform means she must belong to the League of German Girls, the Hitler Youth. I'm sitting on a bench in the park. I had just cited a common red start and cataloged it in my notebook, as usual, under place, time, and date. Berlin, afternoon, May 3rd, 1935. Are you deaf? Hand over your dog. Now, schnell. I freeze. She can't take Max. Or can she? Maybe she knows father's Jewish. No, she couldn't know that. In fact, she and I look almost identical with our long blonde braids and blue eyes. She reaches for Max's lead. He's still lying quietly on the ground, although his ears are up, so I know he's listening. I try to stay calm. Why? I ask. That's none of your business, she declares, her cheeks turning pink with anger. What are you waiting for? Hand him over. I need to think. Slowly, I slip my notebook into my bag. Max's lead is wrapped loosely around my wrist, a trick I've learned to keep him close while doing my bird watching. I stand up so I'm facing the girl. Then I do the only thing I can think of. I take one step to the side and run. Okay, so that was the setup. A story that starts in 1935 but flashes back to the first boycott of Jewish businesses, only 3 months after Hitler took power. It's the story that at its heart, at its core, is love. Love between Mia and her dog Max, between Mia and her father, between Mia and her mother's family, between Mia and her friends. But surrounding them all is hatred. There is no public space that's safe for Mia, especially at school, and soon no private space will be safe either. I very much wanted readers to feel what it is like to live in a dictatorship, where almost all your choices are taken away, and to go on Mia's journey to discover what choices are left. I also wanted to explain anti-Semitism to young readers who almost certainly do not know what it is or how it developed. I hope by tackling these topics, readers will come away with an inoculation effect and not be as easily convinced that an autocratic system might work for them, or as easily convinced that Jews are inherently different or inherently bad. This story also describes Hitler's little-known dog army, a trained army of over 200,000 dogs that enabled the roundups of Jews and Hitler's enemies, and how Mia's father, a vet, and then Mia herself are forced to help train these dogs. It's been a great honor to have this book chosen as the only work of fiction for the new Holocaust curriculum in Manitoba schools.
Carol, you have 1 minute for the second book.
Okay, thank you. Actually, perfect. I was just going to wrap that up. And to say, and so far the kids that have heard me reading from it really appreciate it and like it. So, second book, Kai and the Golem. This is published by Carben and illustrated by Elisa Valvuri. And it is Maybe my take on you can't always get what you want, but sometimes you can get what you will get what you need. It's had an incredible response in the classrooms I've presented to. It is not a book about the power of positive thinking, which I don't really believe in, but it's a book about agency at any age. When things go wrong, why? And then what can we do about it, taking into consideration what our constraints are? So that's not what I want, Kai repeats in the book. But by the end of the book, Kai is able to say, this is just what I want. Okay.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you so much.
Okay. And our next one is Bev Rosenbaum, Frank and the Fish. Bev, you have to unmute.
Hi, sorry.
Okay.
My book is not coming out until spring 2027, but I was so excited about it. I wanted to talk to you about it today. It's called Frank and the Fish. It's about Frank Gehry's. Oh, for those of you who don't know me, I'm the writer of several novels for young people. I'm also a fiction editor. So Frank and the Fish is about Frank Gehry's fish obsession, which began, as he always used to tell the story, when he shopped for live carp in Toronto's Kensington Market with his grandmother. And they probably shopped at my grandfather's fish store, which was only one of a couple of stores in the market, which was called the Jewish Market in the 30s and 40s, that had a live carp tank. So I've written a fun story about how inspiration can come from anywhere, but I was also delighted to be asked to write back matter for the book on not only about Frank's fishier sculptures and buildings, but also about the history of Kensington Market, Jewish immigration into the market, my own family's immigration story, and gefilte fish, because Frank used to also tell the story about how his grandmother would put the live carp in the bathtub, and then one day the fish would disappear, and he didn't put it together until much later that the fish would become the gefilte fish they ate on Friday nights. When I used to hear the story that Frank Gehry would tell about shopping in Kensington Market with his grandmother, at some point I asked my mom, like, how many stores were there with live carp tanks in the market? And that's when I learned, oh, only a couple. And the other one was owned by your grandfather's brother. And I said, excuse me, I didn't even know my grandfather had a brother. Apparently there was a big falling out. That's another story for another completely different book. Anyway, that's where the idea came from. And yeah, so it's a bit of a personal project for me, and I'm really glad it will be out in the world in 2027.
Thank you very much. Okay. Anna, is Anna here? Anna Rassner?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Last year with Maddie.
Yeah, so I am the author of 4 books for young readers, and the last one I wrote is called Eyes on the Ice, and it's a historical novel published by Groundwood, and it's been nominated for 6 awards in the US and Canada. And my most recent one is not particularly Jewish, but it's called Last Year with Maddie. They're both middle grade, by the way. This is published by Great Plains. And it's a novel about 2 12-year-old friends who are driven apart by complicated family issues. So one sort of faces some violence in the home, and the other one, her brother faces a kind of difficult diagnosis. So all this is going on, and they kind of lose track of each other. And it's best described as autofiction, I think, because there are many autobiographical threads, but they're pieced together kind of like a jigsaw puzzle and not at all chronological. So in fact, it's a bit of a sad origin, but it is inspired by the loss of my best friend who died when we were both 37. And she had so many good qualities that I had trouble kind of fitting them all into one person. So in fact, the 2 protagonists are her So she's got all these qualities, sort of divided amongst the two. So it's my memory of her and my tribute to her, and so far it's been very well received. So just published in April. Thanks. That's it.
Thank you very much. And our next presenter is Ellen Schwartz, The Mysterious Lopsided Letter.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Marjorie, and thanks to AJL for organizing this. It's really nice to meet all of you. The Mysterious Lopsided Letter is published by Apples and Honey Press, which is a division of Behrman House Publishers in the US, and it was illustrated by Margot Lucas. And I'll show you some of the illustrations in a minute. This Apples and Honey also published my last book, Friends to the Rescue, excuse me, which won a couple of awards. Now, this is my 21st book, and it was a very unusual process because Apples and Honey put out a request for proposals for a 3-book series to coincide with the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence in the US. And the series had to revolve around 3 actual children who lived in Boston, Massachusetts, in the late 1780s, just after the Revolutionary War. And these 2 children are Jewish cousins, Catherine Hayes and Judah Toro. You might have heard of Judah Toro as the founder of the synagogue in Rhode Island, and their best friend, Joseph Revere, the son of Paul Revere. So I sent in a bunch of ideas and character sketches, and they came back and said, we don't like any of your ideas. Could you send some more? So we kind of tweaked. They chose me to write the series, and we tweaked the first idea. And the idea of the story is that it's Boston, 1785, and one day the children see a poster attached to a notice board that says, hear ye, warning, good people of Boston, an unlawful act is taking place in our beloved city, weekly gatherings of Jews. At the home of Mr. Moses Michael Hayes, Mr. Hayes has insulted Christianity in the past, a concerned citizen. So the children are alarmed by this. Now, the background to this is that synagogues were not allowed in Boston at the time. So Moses Hayes, who was a well-known Jewish citizen, it just invited not just Jews, but other people to his home for Shabbat services. So the children have to find out who posted that and get that person to change his mind. And Catherine, the girl, has artistic ability, and she notices there's something odd about the letter J in the poster, and using that information, she and her cousin and Joseph are able to track down the culprit. And I'll just show you one other illustration to give you an idea of the kind of work that Margot has done. It's just, I think the design is terrific, and it's a chapter book aimed at, I would say, 6 to 9, that age range. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Ellen. And our last presenter is Cheryl Rosenbaum, The Invisible Inheritance. Cheryl?
Sorry, I apologize. I had to unmute. First of all, I wanted to say thank you. I'm so honored to be a part of this wonderful group of professional people. I personally, my main career is I'm a teacher. I happen to be teaching right now and sitting in my car having this meeting. And so I apologize for my background. But I was privy to this meeting through my sister-in-law, Bev Rosenbaum. So I wanted to thank her for that. And like I said before, it's an honor to be here. I have recently co-edited a book with a friend of mine, an old friend named Dory Eckstein. Our book is called, I have a picture of the very faint cover, as the book will not be available. It's not out until October of this year. It is called The Invisible Inheritance. stories um, from the children of Holocaust survivors. And the idea of this book came to fruition because of a need for stories about what it was like to be growing up in the home of Holocaust survivors. So the book is a collaborative book. There are 12 stories, 13 authors, and each tells the story infused with a little bit of their parents' history of being a survivor, but mostly what it was like growing up in the shadow of trauma. And there's a lot of interesting stories and some happy moments and other moments that weren't so happy. And one of the reasons we felt this was necessary is where do we go from here as children of Holocaust survivors? You know, our parents' stories, many of them have been told and shared. And at some point, there is a certain immunity to Holocaust stories and how we can change that storytelling into a second generation and even third generation uh, way of understanding the Holocaust from a different perspective and how trauma does seep into the lives of descendants. And I think for me personally, the big part was to create a community. We lose touch with each other. And, especially since, recent days of what's been going on in the world, we need to continue our communities. And this was one of the ways that we thought would be a great way to start a new conversation. And I think that's it. Thank you for having me.
So much. I'm glad you got in touch. That's great.
Thank you.
And so that's our presenters, and I'm going to now turn things over to Caroline, who's going to mastermind the Q&A. She's been monitoring the chat. Go ahead, Caroline.
Here comes the Q&A. Anne Dublin asks, Kathy, were there some people whose stumbling stones you wanted to tell about in your book, but couldn't, and why?
Yeah, thank you. I started to sort of write down an answer to that question. So one of the issues in telling these stories or finding these stories is that there are 100,000 stumbling stones around the world, but there's very little information about the people who have had stumbling stones placed there. Sometimes I could get in touch with family members, other times the family members had disappeared. So it was really a bit of investigative work finding these particular stories that had kind of full information attached to them. But the other reality is, I very deliberately chose these 13 because they represented this sort of cross-section of people who have been honored with stones from around the world, including not only Jews who've been honored, but others who have been honored as well. So I wanted there to be that kind of full breadth of stories within the book.
Thank you, Kathy. Here's a couple of postscripts, not really questions. Sidura tells us that she thinks she forgot to mention that her 2 picture books are published by Candlewick Press. And Beverly adds that she forgot to mention Frank and the Fish is geared to 6 to 9-year-olds and will be released by a local press, Plum Leaf Press. And now Anne is commenting about Kensington Market to buy fish. I think it was the same market I used to go to with my parents back in the 50s and 60s. And here's a question from Marjorie for Ellen about her book set after the Revolution. As a Canadian, did you have any divided sympathies given how important the Loyalists, that's the United Empire Loyalists, were to the development of Canada, our country?
That's a really good question. I'm originally from the US. My husband and I moved here. We were back to the land hippies, and we moved to the wilderness in British Columbia in the early 1970s. So I have a knowledge of and a feel for the American Revolution. I didn't, to be honest, I didn't think about the Loyalists in writing this book. I have talked about the Loyalists in another manuscript that I've written in the last year or so, but no, it was it, the just getting a feel for Boston in the 1780s. Have good friends who helped with some of the research, and luckily Paul Revere's house is still standing and there are images, and so I got an idea of what the architecture was like in the streets and like that. I think that answers the question.
Thank you. Um, Anne is asking Cheryl. Let's get that question up. How did you choose the stories in your book? And were there stories that you wanted to include but couldn't? Also, who is the publisher? You're on mute, Cheryl.
Sorry, it takes a minute to
Of course,
navigate
of course.
the phone. Excuse me. So my co-editor Dory is someone who's very involved in Holocaust education. She works at the Toronto Museum, Holocaust Museum. She was just recently the co-chair of the March of the Living for the adult trip, and she's done many projects. She originally is a teacher, but probably over 15 years ago left teaching to really focus on her volunteer work for Holocaust education. So she is very well connected, and we put out kind of an APB for people that she knew, some people that I knew, and some were interested, some weren't. And we still have people that are interested. And I would like to also mention that once we publish and the book is out, we will have a virtual continuation of stories for anyone who wants to have an online story posted on the website, which is basically our book is under Canadian Holocaust Survivors and Descendants. That is who is supporting us for this project. So there will be a way for people who do want to still tell their story to be able to continue the narrative on the website. So, and it's also New Jewish Press is our publisher. Thank you.
Cheryl, did she say when it's coming out?
End of October. The release date, I believe, is October 27th.
Great. Thank you. Here's another. And did you say what your target audience was for the book?
Yes, it's mostly adults, but high school as well. So we would like to have that in high schools as conversations for Holocaust education.
Now, thank you so much, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Carol is saying that she forgot to show the golem that Joanne Levy actually made for her. Here it is. Oh, thank you, Carol. And Beverly is reminding us that Cheryl and Dory's book is being published by New Jewish Press, distributed by U of T Press, which is so interesting. Joanne's asking Bev, what made you decide your story needed to be a picture book? Good question.
It's interesting because I've only ever written novels. This is my first picture book, but from the very beginning, I just saw this as a picture book. I thought it would be super fun. So it was a real learning process for me, and I've really enjoyed it. Yeah, but from the very beginning, I just saw it as a picture book.
Anne is asking Carol, why did you choose to write A Storm Unleashed from a first-person point of view?
Yeah. I mean, all my books are first person from except the ones I wrote with my co-writer Perry Nodelman. And the very first four science fiction books I wrote. And that actually, I was one of the first people, I think, to write in the first person. In fact, I remember, and that was for my book Lisa, and I remember getting reviews with people saying, what are you doing? A person can't be doing something and thinking something, and like it sort of blew up. The reviewers were like, what is this, right? yeah, that's how long I've been writing. And I actually got the idea of doing that from an Israeli filmmaker who was here. He was working as a fundraiser, came to Winnipeg from Israel, and we became very good friends with them, with him and his wife. And I was I wanted to write this book about Denmark and how they saved the Jewish population. And as a Jew, I only found out about it in my early 20s when my husband told me about it because he's Danish. And I was like shocked that if I didn't know about it as a Jew who knew about the Holocaust, then there must be many people out there who didn't know about it. So I really wanted to write this book. I started doing the research. I had no publisher at this point. And I was complaining to Amatzia that I couldn't fit it all in. Like I couldn't fit all. And he said, well, write it like it's a film. Write it from the point of view of the character, and then you'll be able to fit in all that information because you've narrowed it down. And that was it. Like suddenly I was able to write the book. It was published in the US. And yeah, all my books since then have also, all my historicals have also been first person. It narrows down your field of vision enough that you can squeeze in all that stuff that you need to squeeze in an historical.
Great. Nancy asks if the list of books presented will be made generally available. And Anne, as always, sure, I can send out the list in the next few days.
I interject if anyone
Please.
if anyone didn't send in their blurb, we have a table with everyone. And if you didn't send in your blurb, send it in so that we have that and we can include that in the list that we distribute.
Thanks, Margie. I think this is our last question and comment from Emily Bergman, who graciously sends to us amazing group of authors with wonderful books. And I certainly agree. Thank you so much. Over to you, Margie.
So I think we're ready to close down. But Anne, I think you had a few things to say, right?
Yeah, I did. Thank you. So I want to thank Marjorie and Caroline once again for organizing this program and for making sure it runs smoothly. Thank you also to AJL National for helping to publicize this event. You'll find the recording of this program on both the AJL National and AJL Canada websites in the near future. Thanks also to all our wonderful authors who work so hard to share their stories for people of all ages. Your books are making an impact that is immeasurable. May you all go from strength to strength. Thank you also to the members of our audience from AJL National who've come to hear about the variety and richness of writing by Canadian Jewish authors. And one last plug, AJL Canada is looking for people to join our steering group to make our chapter even stronger. If you're interested, please contact me as soon as possible. I wish you all the best wherever you are in the world for health and for fulfilling creative work. So, good afternoon, good morning, good night, wherever you are. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Toda
Thanks,
rabah.
everybody. Thanks for coming.